a huge shift for me because I realized in my 20s and late 20s that I was still looking ridiculously far and wide for my dad's approval, for my dad's love, for my dad's validation.
Once you are trapped in the victim mentality, that's not a good place. That's not a place where you can change anything. You have to get out of there. You have to take your power back.
If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? Like, so why are you expecting a donkey to appear, right? It's a duck.
Hi, everyone. I'm Monika,
I'm Erin.
and welcome to today's special Holidays and New Year's episode. We're so
Yes,
excited to be there with you.
absolutely. It's sometimes a lot navigating through the holidays and then finding yourself on the other side, a brand new year. I know a lot of people have that never ending long New Year's resolutions list. What has your experience been as far as, are you one of those people that has a whole list of this is what I want to accomplish in the new year? Or are you more on the other side of the fence of like, no, no.
Well, I think I was once the one with a long list, and then I did nothing and everything in between. And what I found out is New Year's resolution can really crush your self esteem and your self trust because let's be honest, we have a list and maybe one is making it until end of January. By June, we forgot all of them.
Mhm.
But what happens is every time we say something to ourselves, I will do X, Y, Z, and we don't. We damage our self esteem.
It's so
So
true.
So that's why I don't do it anymore in that way. I have another technique how to do it, which I'm happy to share later. But what about you, Erin? What are you doing?
I never, I never, ever, ever, ever have the list going into the new year. I really just try to have like little micro commitments. So I will say, okay, well, what's one small thing that I can just do to build a bigger habit over time? Because, like you, I used to have a list and I would never accomplish it. And then I would go in that shame spiral of like, why am I not doing it? I committed to doing it. So same thing. Um, so I'm not a big list person. I just try to like identify areas of growth as I go through the year and then little micro commitments. Yeah. I definitely
Amazing.
know a focus for me this year is going to be getting my butt back in like weight training. That's going to be a focus for me because I love yoga. I love stretching. Lord knows my body needs it, but I really need to start throwing up some weights. That's going to be you need to hold me accountable.
Wow, look at you
Micro.
go there. But
Yeah.
you know what I love about what you do? You have a focus, but you don't say, like, I will go 5 times a week to the gym and do, I mean, something like that, which the thing is, we get so excited when we do these New Year's resolutions, and it's never a good idea to do anything out of a hyper state, no matter if it's too high or too low. But
Mhm.
we then overdo it, and then we say it and we want it. But like we said, it's always then the side effect that that we damage our self trust every time we say we do and we don't. There is no trust anymore. We do not trust ourselves, and it's always together with shame.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. What I call with my clients and myself, I have these moments of radical honesty. So I'll have like a check in with myself frequently and like just like the weights that I decided on. I'll take a moment. I'll say, okay, so what's the driver behind it? Why do I want to focus on it? Right. And what happens? So I'll just kind of go through the process of just uncovering, peeling back the onion layers of like why I feel like I need to. And then I'll come at it from a different approach and I'll ask myself, what's the price tag, associated with me not doing this? Like, what is it going to look like in 6 months? How am I going to feel in a year? Like, what if I'm not aggressively pursuing this? And that really helps me kind of like fully align behind the new habit.
Wow, I love it because you asked the why, which we all know. Um, this can be the fuel and and driving us or building a bridge over any time where we don't feel motivated. So you have this, and also like really thinking about why do we want to do this, because this is also sometimes something what happens during the holiday seasons and New Year's, that we think we have to do something
Yeah.
because we think that's what we do, or
Yep.
people expect it, or we saw it in these movies and it's also romantic and we all need to be like this and that. But that's not true. We have to detach from all these Hollywood sceneries
Yeah.
and really think, but wait a moment, if I wouldn't know these movies, how would I really like it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we prefer to be alone.
Yeah.
But have you ever seen a Hollywood movie where someone says, "Oh well, I rather don't go to the Christmas dinner because I prefer to be alone"? No, there wouldn't be a movie.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
But it's
sort
okay.
all out. Yeah. Mhm. I think too, it's a big struggle because our brains are wired for instant gratification, and all of these big grandiose plans take time. They take time and constant commitment. And a lot of times, especially like if we're just focusing on like the health and fitness sector, right? Like you're not going to see results typically until at least a month out, 2 months out. That's really hard to stay committed to something like that when your brain is wired for instant, you know? So I think
Ex-
that, yeah, the biggest thing is really like to set yourself up for success is to have like a very small, like I said, a micro commitment, a little small thing that will build these bigger, better commitment or these bigger, better habits down the road. Because you're battling, right? All that programming, you're battling evolution, you're battling all these things. This brilliant brain we know likes familiar and it does not like new things.
Exactly. No, that's so smart. We have to consider that. And then, so what I found out for myself, what works is no New Year's resolutions, but instead, what I do is I take a time, like 1 hour or something, any day before the new year. And then I sit down and I write down all my accomplishments from the last years. And this is, by the way, also something I work with clients on when we have the new year. So big and small accomplishments.
Mhm.
Everything I've grown, everything I've accomplished. This could be some tiny things, everything maybe I have changed in a way I like. But here
Yeah.
only the good things are allowed. So
Mhm.
some people say, yeah, but the last year was just crap. I didn't do anything good. That cannot be true. Then you
Yeah.
have to sit longer and then you have to look closer. But for
Mhm.
sure, you did something, one thing that you liked.
Absolutely.
And maybe you just helped an old lady crossing the street. Amazing. Write it down.
Mhm.
And once you do one thing, then you will think of another thing because whatever we focus on, we get more of. So then there is this list. What this list does is we get in a state of, in a good state, so the self esteem, self trust, everything that
Yeah.
gets higher and higher. And once this list is done, then is the second step. And the second step is to take a time and to visualize. Now, what
Yeah.
would the end of the next year of 2025, for example, I would
Yeah.
sit there and do the same. What would I like to write down for the coming year? And there you open something which is something, first of all, you really like. So it's a bit, you trick a little bit the mind so it does not it does not come in with this usual things, but you can really think, you can really feel like, what would I like to write at the end of the coming year?
I
And
love
so,
that. Yeah, I love that whole that's a really good tip for the audience like that, just that piece, that visualization piece, because the brain doesn't know the difference between real and imaginary. And so just to your point, just sitting in that space of like, what's it going to look like? How am I going to feel? What's going to be going on in my environment? How are my relationships? Like really flushing that out in your brain, then that subconscious locks it in and you're just subconsciously, right? Like moving towards it. That's why that work psychologists and all those people make so much money working with, these Olympians and stuff, because
Exactly, because they do. I mean, and even everyone knows, like, if someone is an athlete, everyone knows they can practice in their mind only, and the muscle will still be used, even
yep.
if they're sitting in a studio and not
Oh, cool.
skiing or whatever it is. And the
Yeah.
same is for if people playing the piano just in the mind.
Mhm.
There are studies out there. Normally, it's your part that you say the things about studies, but today it's me.
I love it. I
So
love it.
there are studies they really prove it. So, and I think this is in already in people know it. Everyone knows it. So, but
Mhm.
if that is true for athletes and pianists, why should it not be true for everyone? We are the same humans. It is.
Yeah.
It works. We just practice it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great, okay, keep going. So those are the two first things, right? Make the
Yeah.
list, realize it. Do you have a third step or is
Exactly.
that it?
And when you visualize it, you can either write it down, and everyone is different. Some people would like to write it down, or you can just think about it, which is a bit tricky, or you can even record it. And anyway, even if you write it down, I really recommend to record it, to record what you have written. Or if you're super visual, you can make a vision board if you like to do that. But if you're like me, this is too slow. I need to have it written down, and I have an audio and I record it. And if you don't like your voice, then ask your best friend or your partner. Maybe they would record it for you if you are willing to share that. But to
Mhm.
have it on audio can help you so much because, again, you practice. Now, every day when you listen to that, you practice. You're stepping into your future self, into your ideal futures.
I
And
love
that's
it.
the thing that you can practice without needing a lot of more time. Just before you go to bed, you listen to the thing and you wake up and you are a step closer. And so this was step 3, let's do. But then while you're doing this, think about what can you do now? What little step can you do now, right now, to move into that direction? And this doesn't have to be a huge thing. It doesn't even have to be an email. Maybe
Mhm.
it's just writing down a list or, planning or
I
planning
love
my day so that I can go every Thursday to the gym.
I love that. It's almost like reverse engineering, right? Like this is the end goal, but what can I do or what do I need to do in this moment to get me there? I
Exactly.
love
Yeah.
that. Do you make your clients like, or do you make your clients? Do you ask your clients to do a full on recording that they listen to every night or every morning?
Yeah. I mean, if I work with people, then I'm also happy to do that for them
Yeah.
because I understand so many people don't like their voice when they're not used to it. I mean, I haven't met one person who liked their voice from the beginning when they're on recorded. And also, um, there are sometimes a little bit steps in between, then you have to record it and you have to find a quiet space and all that thing. So the more steps there are in between, the more it can happen that something comes in between. So that's what we don't
Yep.
want. So for my clients, I'm happy to do that. And
Nice.
yeah, so and that works a lot. So they listen a lot to it, and yeah, it's amazing. But they don't need me. I mean, no one needs me. Anyone who is listening there, you can just do it alone and it's fine. Or you ask your partner, your friend, or your whoever to
Mhm.
record it for you, or you just record it and you will get used to your voice. And then the good side effect is you will love your voice with time.
It's so true. It's so true. I'm so used to my voice now. But in the beginning, I used to be, like, cringing, like, "Ew, that's what I sound like? I'm so annoying." And now
I
I'm
know
like
that.
and
I
it's
know
funny
that.
too with the recordings, a lot of clients will always say, "Now I can't, sleep without hearing your voice and stuff," which is really funny.
Yeah, yeah, amazing, right?
Yeah.
This is such a powerful tool, such a powerful thing we gifted. And Erin, I'm so curious, what do you observe during this holiday season and New Year's in your clients?
Yeah, and I love that you just pivoted because I was about to pivot. Um, yeah, I was gonna say a lot of times New Year's, the closing of a year brings up a lot of emotions, right? A lot of sometimes just nostalgia, sometimes it's regrets, sometimes it's, very stressful for people navigating family relationships during this time of year. Sometimes it's just simply loneliness, but a lot of things I find, especially in January, um, they're depressed, right? It's like we have all this buildup, and then it's over. And it's the new year, and for some people, that's really hard. So for as far as my clients, it's a 50-50 split. I have a lot of people that are wanting to super plan and be super productive right out of the gate. And then I have this group over here that's kind of like, is this all there is? Like we're doing this again. It's a lot of depression, a lot of loneliness, a lot of like I said, navigating tough family relationships. That's really what I see the most. And I think that it probably needs to be talked about a lot more, the post-holiday, post or the New Year's depression, the New Year's sadness. Do you find that too?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Everything you said, like a lot of depression.
yeah,
And it's also, I mean, it's a combination also because most people are a little bit distracted during Christmas and stuff. And some are with family, some are not, but they do most of the time something. If you have kids, for sure you are distracted. You are super busy before and during Christmas. And then when it goes back to the routine, then it's like you say, yeah, a lot of depression comes, often anxiety is also, um, for sure relationships because we are more together with families or even partner, kids.
yeah,
And it's whenever we spend more time together, of course, it's like a magnifying glass. On these little issues we can hide well, everyone is doing their work routine and every day. But when it's holiday, then it's then often also parents or family out there, like I don't know, aunts and cousins and I don't know. But
yeah.
a lot of relationship things and yeah. And I feel especially moms, they
Mhm.
are very, very much exhausted. And then there comes the guilt, and then there comes the shame, and then it's all like, you know, all the typical things.
It's so true. We just celebrated our family Christmas early because my son is spending this holiday with his dad and his family. So I decided I was going to host this year, which is not, I mean, since the beginning of time, it was always my mom's house, right? But this year, I'm like, oh, we're going to host. And it's really interesting because my mom, she even said to me halfway through, getting the dinner ready and all the things. She goes, so the vibe is so much better this year. She's like, I'm not as stressed out. I don't have guilt over all the things. She's like, I think it's because it's not my house. Right. And it's so to your point, mothers, yeah, we do that, right? We turn ourselves inside out and it's like we have to have the perfect table settings and the perfect meals and the perfect, family gathering, and we have to just make sure everything's beautiful and why? Why are we putting all that stress on ourselves?
Yeah.
Why? You know?
Yeah.
Um,
Mm, totally agree. Yes. And then the perfect gifts and
yeah.
everything has to look perfect. And then I know that, yes, so well. And I think every mom knows it. And even if you're not a mom, I think you are a child for sure.
Yeah.
And you have to maybe spend time with parents, or maybe not, or maybe you should and you decide not to. And then there is, fight. And
Yeah.
again, then the guilt or shame and all the old traumas come then up. So this is also a thing which I observe in like Christmas and New Year's. It's like it's showing you with whoever you deal, even if you're just with your partner alone, that's romantic. Then you will see there are a lot of opportunities to work on, or maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your kids, maybe it's I don't know with whom you spend the time. But then again, a lot of old traumas are coming up. And
Yeah.
what I've observed also with myself, but also with clients now way more, is like, for example, childhood traumas. When
Mm.
we spend the time, or we think we should spend the time with our parents, with our family, and either we
Like
do or
affirmation.
not do, then
Mm.
it it comes up. And even if we spend Christmas or New Year's alone, it reminds us of Christmas when we were children. And this
Yeah.
brings up the traumas. So this is what I observed so much. So then it comes up, and then we suddenly feel like this 8-year-old girl who felt super alone, or whatever it was in that moment. And we do not, of course, that's not conscious, that's
Mhm.
subconscious, but we suddenly feel like super alone, or outside, or rejected, whatever it was. But
Yeah.
this is something we have to understand also, that these things come up because they
Yeah.
get triggered.
Absolutely. It, yeah. Family has a special way of doing that, doesn't it?
Of course,
uh,
because the
right.
family where we lived, where these programs became created and these traumas happened.
Yeah. It's family. That's for sure. Navigating family relationships around this time of year is really, really, really sad. Especially if you're disconnected from your family. Maybe you have people in your family that aren't talking. I think the name of the game, and I want to, and this ties into the New Year resolution. So, something that I always tell people is to be super intentional, super intentional. So I usually will ask clients, when you leave a room, what are the three adjectives that you want to have associated with you? Right. So maybe it's like, I want to be influential. I want to be really compassionate. Maybe I want to be super empathetic. But pick three really, really strong words that you really aspire to step into fully and own fully, that people, it doesn't matter who you meet, they'll all have the same three words. Right. So I have clients who really, really identify again with intention. How do I want to show up? And then from there, we'll set up what I call trigger moments. So the way that I tell them to do it is to have, most people have iPhones, but I'm sure you can do this with an Android. Just go into the alarm and label the alarm. So maybe my three words are influential, compassionate, and present. I would label the alarm to have those three words pop up. So then I would have clients, make sure they're not going to set off an alarm in the middle of a meeting, but strategically every day have those alarms go off. When that alarm goes off, obviously take a minute and then ask yourself, how am I showing up? Am I showing up as influential? Am I fully present right now? Am I super empathetic? And that's your regrounding moment. So throughout the day, you're just calibrating. And that is the fastest way to create a new habit. So to your point, that might be a really beautiful way to kind of get through harder family situations or troublesome times of like, maybe your words are, gratitude, present, and hopeful, whatever that looks like. But really taking that moment to recalibrate so you don't get spun out, sucked into the vortex that is our brain, right? um, to really just help you navigate and to move into a better headspace as you come out of the holidays and into a new year.
Wow, that's amazing. I can already see how this can people help. I love it. Yeah, intentional, and that's so important. This is something I also tell people, and I found for myself. I always say, no matter what it is, always start with intention and end with gratitude, no
Mm,
matter how it turned out. Because you start with intention, you brilliantly already described how to do it. Whatever you do, how do I want to do it? Why am I doing it? You have the intention. Okay, great. And if it didn't work out well, for example, divorce case scenario in family, then a fight
mm,
started. Okay, still you have the choice to end with gratitude, because when you think about it already, first of all, you can always say, well, there was a lesson in for me. There was
mm.
something. What is the thing I can be grateful for? Even if it's a hot
Growth.
mess now and everyone
Yes.
is like,
Yeah. I love
but,
that.
but there
That
is
was I wrote it down because that was definitely like a little pearl of wisdom right there. Start everything with intention and end with gratitude. I love
yeah,
that. That's such a beautiful saying, Monica. And what I super love about the gratitude part, and I think I've said this before, but gratitude is one of those amazing emotions where when it's present, there's no other emotion can exist. So that's a really beautiful way to also pivot out of a downer state is to just
yeah.
gratitude. I love that. That's the
And I
quote
loved
of the
so much what you sorry. I loved so much what you said before about to have this alert also on your phone that, you get reminded, because when we do our things or we get triggered from people,
yeah,
we just forget about these things. But when imagine you are there in the Christmas dinner and then your mom is triggering you like always, and you're about to get into that program,
yep,
because what happens, it triggers a program. And then the alert goes off and like, oh wow. There you have the opportunity to say no, to take back, to steer,
exactly.
and do not let your life in this moment be run by this program. So I that's such a powerful advice you gave, and I love it so much.
Yeah, I
And
tell people, I'm like, that's like your highest it's like a reminder from the highest version of you, right? To your point. And you get to choose. You can recalibrate right all day long in the moment, which is so beautiful. I had one client, he did this because he worked in an office. This was before COVID. He was working in an office and he was a new leader and he was really trying to step into that role fully. So instead of the phone alarms, he associated it with stepping, through doorways. Like, every time he would step through a doorway, he would take a moment and he would be like, am I present? Am I inspiring? Am I, influential? Whatever those, I can't remember. But he did it so often, and as you know, the brain learns through repetition. He was so intentional with and I think he had Post-it notes on every doorway. As soon as he walked through, he would take a moment, he'd be like, "Okay, I wanna show up with intention, I wanna show up with" right, whatever this and now, he said, "I can go through any doorway anywhere, and I'm constantly just that's who I am now." Like a switch, right? Because that's what the brain trigger moments are the fastest way to program and lock in a new habit. So, I went on a tirade, but there you have it.
that's
That's what
amazing. That's
Milan
amazing.
girl. That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love this example also from your client. And what came to my mind now also is like maybe some people think, or people who watch this might think, yes, but when I go there and then my mom starts to drive me crazy and it's just not the time for the alert, I'm on it. I'm just like, I just can't stand. So she always criticizes me, or whatever the story is, whatever it is. And because a lot of people say this to me, no, I cannot be with my mom or with my dad or with my sister, whoever it is in a room, because this or that happened, or they always criticize me, or whatever the story was when we were children, it will come up. But for that, what I say to clients is, well, when you choose to be in a room with them, and that's your choice, when you choose to have Christmas with them or New Year's or whatever you want, then you are there. And once you are there, it's your choice. First of all, you have to remember that. No one is
Yep.
forcing you. It's your
Yeah.
choice. And then you say, yes, but I have to because otherwise this and that will happen, or my kids will be sad, or my husband is expecting that I come to his parents, or whatever it is. Yes, but it's still your choice. It's
Yeah.
still your choice. And why does this help? Because you don't feel so powerless in that moment. You don't feel like I have to be there and I hate it. It's like, no, I chose it. It's my choice. And you take the power back. It's my choice. And I chose it to be here because I like this more than whatever. Maybe also just the consequence, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And one thing what people can also do is when they know they are in a room with a person who is always triggering them, because it's always there, well, then prepare. Know that. Know that. And sometimes I even role play with them or I help them do what can they do when the father, whoever it is saying again this and that, and is behaving again like this and that. And because, again, the father is saying something, it triggers a program within you, and then you're gone. And then you're just acting out through this program. You're not here anymore. It's just a pain that's now acting out and all these words. But once you are aware of it, you know, okay, there is my father, and he always triggers me because he is always mean or criticizing me. When you know that, then you can see it as that. Well, he is like he is because guess what? Not only you have the program that gets triggered, he also is run by these programs. And when he is saying this or is always criticizing, it's just a program. You don't have it in this moment to do with the
Yeah.
person, so to say. It's just a pain that's speaking through that. And if you can be aware of that in that moment, you are not going with it. You can stay outside.
That is such good advice. I always tell people, you know, when they come in and they're like, "Well, this happened and then this happened," and I'll lean in. Usually clients I've been working with for a while, so I know them fairly well, and I'll ask them. I'll be like, "Were you expecting something different? Because this person has always been that way. They've not changed. So why have your expectations of them still not changed, right? If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? Like, so why are you expecting a donkey to appear, right? It's a duck. So to your point, yeah, really knowing like this is definitely going to happen. You're 1000% going to be triggered. If you've been triggered by this person your whole life, you're absolutely going to be triggered. I think too, it's yes, mental gaming it so that you're like, okay, what are better ways that I can premeditate so we're building that narrow pathway, so in the moment I'm more likely to do this new behavior. Um, but I think it's also reframing the situation. If you know that your dad is gonna trigger you, and then it's really like looking at this and associating pleasure with it, right? Okay, so this is a phenomenal moment for me to flex my new muscles, right? I've learned all these amazing tools with my amazing coach, Monica, but now I'm so excited. I'm going to be literally put in the hot seat to just see how far I've advanced, right? Almost gamifying it. And it's incredible how that when you just reframe the situation to empower you rather than to take away your power, how much easier it is to have an objective look at it rather than being like, put right back in that 8-year-old self, right? So, reframing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, reframing is in that way a really, really good technique. Amazing. Yes. And then when you do that, also, you take yourself out. You are in that moment when you do it, you're not in the program, you're conscious of it.
Yep.
You're
Yep.
conscious of the situation. You are not the victim of like being in this
Yeah.
pattern
Yep.
that was always there with this person.
Mhm.
And why is there a pattern? Why is there a trigger? Because there is a program, but why is there a program? because often, especially when it's about parents, and we are adults already, we still try subconsciously to make them, the parents,
Yeah.
we so much needed to have, but they were not because they were not
Yeah.
able or whatever they were, but they just were not. So,
Yeah.
for example, um, I can even take myself as an example,
Oh,
always
yeah.
talking about time, because for my parents, they are super loving people and they did the best they could, but they had, of course, like everyone, like every human, they had their issues and their stories and their programs. And my father uh, was depressed like my whole childhood, and my mom was always overwhelmed. So I didn't get the attention I wished I would get.
Yeah.
Now, as an adult, before I did the deep work, whenever I met them, I subconsciously wanted them to give me the attention and the love
Yeah.
I always needed, but I never got. Like the feeling of being unconditionally loved. And they
Yeah.
did love me, but they just couldn't make me feel that way. So I went in there, visiting them, for example, for Christmas or whatever it was, and I expected it subconsciously. But guess what? They were still the same people like before.
Yeah.
Now I'm an adult, and within me, the wounded child
Yeah.
wants this love and attention. And now, in that moment, when this gets triggered because all my other siblings are there and maybe even more people, and it's crowded and everyone does their thing and no one pays attention to me. And I think I still want it like a child, which is, by the way, also not true, but I'm acting out that child. I do things like this child, less like this 6, 8 year child does them. And then I get really grumpy. And then
Yeah.
I'm picking a fight to get the attention. But
Yep.
consciously, I don't know that I just did this in order to get the attention because I had no idea about the programs
Right.
which are there some layers deeper. But
Hmm.
that was always the case. I went there subconsciously expecting them to give me finally the love and attention I needed. They didn't because they were still the same people. I made a fight in a way. There
Yeah.
it is, intention. And of course, not the way I wanted it, but it was always the same. Now, after doing the work, I know
Hmm.
whenever I go to them and I get triggered, I can ask myself now, I can go inside, I can look at this wounded child and I can see the pattern, I can see the trigger, and I decide not to play with it.
Isn't that is like the end goal, right? To break open that the space between trigger and reaction, right? And it does. It only happens through that introspection. The end goal, right? To your point, which you learned how to do beautifully, is when I'm triggered, instead of reacting, to ask yourself which value is being infringed on, right? Where is this pain point originating from? When you can start asking yourself those questions in the moment, very little starts to bother you. Like very little remains, right? Because you're like, oh, I understand why I'm triggered by that. It's because in childhood XYZ. Okay. But I'm an adult now. Like I'm good. I'm good. And when you start to be able to like reframe or like get to the why in the moment before you react, wow, that's a powerful place to live. It's because it's
Yes,
intentional, right?
of course. And don't get me wrong, it's not that it's always like that. But
No, no, like
again, I know there are people who trigger me especially, and these are my parents.
Mhm.
That's the fact.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
before I put my feet into their house, I know it. And
yeah,
I'm aware because
yeah,
I know there are patterns. They will trigger me and I will trigger them.
yep,
So
100%.
I
Mhm.
have to that's why I what I said before, to know who is triggering you and not. And
Yep,
then what you said before, it's so true because they didn't change. They are the same. And we are in some ways still I mean, it's a work in progress. all the time. And,
Absolutely.
this is so important to understand. And yeah, I see it also with clients. It doesn't matter which part, which relationship, if it's an intimate relationship or with parents or with kids, whatever it is. It's just like when we change, we cannot expect them to change the same way.
Yeah.
That means when we could resolve some trauma which happened through a traumatic experience in childhood, that's amazing for us.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the other person did the same work. And 99% it didn't. So what happens then is we grow and we are on a different place,
Yep.
a different version, so to say, but they are not. They are still in the same program and they expect us also to be in the same. So they see us as the version we were before we did
Yep.
the work. And this is
It's
also something we have to have in our mind.
so true. And then setting your expectations accordingly, right? Because to your that's so it's that's such a valid point. That's usually the first conversation I'll have with clients, the first intro, right? That I tell them this is going to be the deepest work of your life. It's going to be the most rewarding, but it's going to be work, right? And I tell them, I want you to understand that as you start to go like this, not everyone in your current circle is going to come with you because they can't, because they're not ready. They're not ready to do the work. And I tell them, like, so please manage your expectations accordingly. It's no different when when I think there was a show years ago, but it was like The Biggest Loser or something like that, and it's people who wanna transform their, from a very unhealthy lifestyle to a very healthy lifestyle. Well, that takes a lot of extreme change, but it was interesting, the people who succeeded the most were the ones who had an environment, a family environment that really supported them of like, "Okay, we'll get rid of all the junk food. We'll, like, make sure." The ones that didn't have partners who supported them, who wanted to go on this journey, right? Who stayed in that unactive lifestyle, those people, most of them failed. So, like, to your point, it's really recognizing you're changing, but not everybody's going to go on that journey with you and to really manage your expectations, right? Because, right, it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck. It's a duck. They didn't become a swan. You are, right? So,
Yes.
um,
Amazing. Yes, exactly. That's the thing. Manage your expectations when you do the work, like deep work, like you and I talk about, but also manage your expectations. You said it before also when you walk into your parents' house or wherever you go,
yeah,
or when you see this group of friends and there is always this lady who is driving you crazy.
yeah,
Okay, you know she's there. You can change her, but you can still have a beautiful evening when you
yeah,
know she's just who she is.
yep,
She is in that she's in a different timeline of of your journeys.
yeah.
She's there, you are here, and you can either accept it or you take yourself out of the situation.
I love the word that you just used. You can accept it. Isn't that what it all comes down to? Just accepting people just as they are, right? It's just accepting that. I always tell people acceptance equals freedom. Hard stop. Like that's when you accept things, e- whether you don't have to like them, right? Acceptance doesn't mean I'm going to make peace with it. No, it's accepting this is the way things are for better, or for worse. It just is. And when you're able to accept that, wow, it really gives you so much emotional release of like, you know what? They're not going to change. I can't change this. I have a choice whether I want to put myself in this environment. But if I've accepted they're not going to change, but I'm still good, well, then it's a whole different experience. And I think too with parents, all of us do this. We grow up and we like have our parents on this invisible pedestal where it's like, that's our whole life, like we're always seeking their approval, their validation. They're like these amazing entities, right? And we're aspiring to be like our parents. And then you become an adult and you realize that literally nobody has any fucking idea what they're doing. We're all just stumbling through life trying to figure it out. And you're when you really accept that fact of like they did the best they could, it doesn't mean it was good enough. It doesn't, maybe they were terrible parents, but that was the best that they were capable of in that moment in their life. And when you can really wrap your head around that, you're able to let go. You're able to say, okay, well, okay, that's not going to be where I look for validation anymore. That's not going to be what I aspire to anymore. Right. You start to look at people as just people, right? Instead of parents.
Mhm.
That was a huge shift for me because I realized in my 20s and late 20s that I was still looking ridiculously far and wide for my dad's approval, for my dad's love, for my dad's validation. And I never got it. And I finally realized had that epiphany of like, why? What is this unbelievable emphasis that I like, why do I need it from him? There's so many places I can get it. I can get it from myself. That's where I should be looking. Why do I need external validation? Right. But it was when I really started to say, like, he's just a man who had a family and he didn't do the deep work. He didn't go on the journey. But, right? He's not like this super deity. Like, but that was just such a shift for me. And that really helped me with the acceptance piece of like, he did the best he could. He did
Mhm.
the best he could. He had good intentions, but he never figured out that silver bullet of like, gotta start here. You gotta get real with yourself, right? He never went on the journey. So that really shifted things for me and really allowed the door to open wide for me to do the journey, the work, right? But again, I totally went on a tangent, but acceptance, that's where it's
Yes.
at.
Yeah, but I love every word you said. Thank you for sharing this. I think this was so important and powerful also. And I love that they did the best they could. And if we go even a step further, like if you would have lived their lives
Mm,
with all they've experienced, you would do exactly the same. And I know that's a lot, but really think about it. If I would have lived my father's life with all he had experienced, all the traumatic experiences, all the things, I would have done the same, exactly the same. And
Oprah
that,
wrote a book a couple years ago, and to piggyback tail off that, It she wrote it with the psychologist. I can't remember his name, forgive me. Um, but the title of the book is What Happened to You? And that tees up beautifully. She's like, instead of saying, why would they like why what did I do to deserve this? It's like when somebody's acting a certain kind of way, the first question should be, what happened to you to make you act that way? Because you're right. Like we all have journeys and we're just playing the tapes, right? Of like how we were programmed. Um, but to your point, yeah, if I can't imagine what my father has been through. I mean, I can imagine and it's horrific. Of course, I want to think I would have done things differently, he, but yeah, to your point, what happened to them? What happened to that person
exactly.
feeling that's always,
Yeah.
hurt you or right? What happened to them? Can't imagine.
And I'm happy that you said, yeah, and you would have done things differently. Really? If you would have his awareness and if you would
Right.
have his consciousness, you couldn't.
Couldn't. Mm.
Because you would
Yeah.
have learned the same things he had learned. You would
Mhm.
have believed the same things he would believe. And that's
Yeah.
all we are. So we
Yeah.
would act exactly the same. And now, how does this help? Well, first of all, you can take a little bit a step back from the blaming and also victim mentality. It's because
Yeah.
of them, because they treated me like that. And to like going back to this, did the best they could, like understanding. This is like accepting and then understanding with compassion.
Yeah.
Now I know, I mean, I was very lucky because there were some little issues and stuff, but still my childhood was nice, and my parents were always loving, and they couldn't show me the love and attention I wanted, but they did everything they did out of love. And I know this is can be sometimes also painful, but I know some people go through a lot or went through a lot of really nasty stuff. And then it's hard to think, well, they did the best they could. Yes, but then you have to go back to it's your choice if you want to still hang out with them or not. Like
Yeah.
everything you do, you have to go away from the victim. Once you are trapped in the victim mentality, that's not a good place. That's not a place where you can change anything. You have to get out of there. You have to take your power back. You have to
Yeah.
be aware of what your choice. And once you have them, then you can choose where you want to be, with whom. And one thing which also came to my mind when you were speaking before, which I loved so much, is like these expectations. Um, it's so important to understand that sometimes we go to people, can be their mom, can be the partner, whoever it is, and we expect them to be everything. Now, this can let's take the example for a partner or the mom. We go to our mom and we expect them to be my best friend and everything, and my mom, and also my
Mm.
teacher, and all of that. And the same we do to our partners. We expect them to be our lover and our best friend and our I don't know, parents sometimes. And the thing is, there are people in your life who have a certain role. There are people who have other roles. And if I go to my husband and expect him to be my best friend, like my best girlfriend, that's not a good idea because
No.
he will not say the things that I feel better. He will make me feel worse because it's just not who he is. He's not
Yeah.
a nice person. He's the kind of thing I know, but he's not a nice person.
Mm.
And now, first of all, I can choose. Well, do I want to be with a person who is not nice? But on the other hand, he's the kindest person in the world. Yes, I want. So then I choose the whole package. It's not a buffet. I cannot say, okay, I just take this, but I don't take this. It's the whole thing. So I know, okay, if I want to talk about some stuff, I call a friend and I don't talk to him about it. And the same is with our mom, the same is with our dad. So we have to have the right expectations and know, okay, what is it that that we are on the same level I can talk about. There are so many things I can talk about my husband with my husband about, but not when I say like not
Mm.
girls talk. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm happy about that, by the way. And there's things I can talk with my mom about, but
Not
some
him.
things not.
It absolutely. I love that you said. I love where you're like, it's not a buffet. Similarly, I tell clients, I'm like, I bucket people, right? I've got my fun friends when I need a night out to blow off some steam. I've got my, I'm having a mental breakdown friends that I know I can call, right? Like bucketing people. It just made me think of a story when my parents told me, and I didn't understand way back, but wow, do I get it as an adult. When they first got married, they moved from New York to, I think, Michigan. Anyway, or Detroit or somewhere very, very cold and snowy and not enough sunshine. So my mom was very depressed. And I remember my mom telling me that, you know, she was depressed. She wanted to go home. She didn't want to live there anymore. And my dad's response to her was, Norma, I'm not responsible for your happiness. You are. And she said, I was so mad at him that he said that because I'm like, why? Like, where's the compassion, blah, blah, blah. She's like, but you know what? He was right. He was right. And I always tell my client, especially my partnered up people, I'm like, you're not responsible for anybody else's happiness. you can absolutely bring joy and value to the relationship to enhance the quality of the relationship. I said, but you're not responsible for anyone else's feelings. Right. So that's always like a very, especially, gosh, especially like in marriages and then like even in family dynamics around the holidays, right? It's to your point, there's not one person that should be your source of all things unless that person is you. You have to be the source. You have to be the
So
source.
well said. Yes,
So,
exactly.
yeah, you are responsible for your own happy. And if you don't like it, if you're not happy with this quality of your life, well, you know what? 2025, get a coach. Get a coach. Find your happy. Get all recalibrated, right? And then looking inwards for your unmet needs, right? Look inwards. I remember I read an article once and it was about attachments happen. If you've ever been in a relationship where you broke up, whether it's a friendship or romantic thing, and it broke up and you just can't let go. You're just still struggling. There's so much pain. It's because there's a perception that you are gaining something in that relationship that you're unable to give to yourself. And when you can figure out what that thing is, voila, you know how to give it to yourself and the attachment drops. So,
I love it. I love it. This is what I always say. Like all this suffering or negative emotions, they're all teachers. If we just
amen.
can take a moment and step back a little bit and watch and observe them. What are you telling me? What do I want?
Hmm.
How people struggle so much with this question, what do I want? Well, there you go. When
Yep.
you are super unhappy because you lost this person, ask, what is it in that person that you like? What you like in a partner? And then you say, but what didn't you like? Why did you have to break up? Or why did he leave you? Or whatever it is. You will find all those things. And then you will see also what doesn't work for you.
Amen. Amen.
And then you go. And then you have what you want, what you look for, what you don't like. So you
Yeah.
can go out and find the right person who has the qualities you like. And going back to the holiday and family and parents stuff, it's we are not responsible to make anyone happy. Sometimes even parents expect that, but also the other way around. Your parents, are not responsible for making you happier. I mean, they made
Exactly.
mistakes, there were traumatic experiences, things happened. They are not the one who can heal you.
Exactly.
No matter what they say, it will trigger you when you get triggered, even if they would say, forgive me, I'm so sorry. If you are in the program, doesn't matter. The only one who can heal yourself is you.
Is you. Absolutely. And even just, I know we're coming up on time here, but even just navigating the end of the year blues or all the family stuff, you know what? Don't forget to be kind to yourself. Don't forget to give yourself grace and compassion. Um, and give yourself permission to be human, most importantly. If you burn dinner, you burn dinner. Everyone's gonna survive, right? If there's a blowout, between two of your siblings, in the living room, that's a them problem. Right? Just I think the key to getting through anything is to have a really good sense of humor and give yourself grace, really and
Yeah.
truly. Be gentle with
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah,
Exactly. Be gentle and accept. And remember, some things we cannot change, and we can definitely not change other people. And if there
definitely.
is a fight and you wish it would be different, well, that's what it is now. It's not your fault. It's just how it is. You have to accept it and then be kind to yourself. And if being kind to yourself in that moment means you leave, then you leave. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do anything except doing what's good for you yourself and being kind to yourself. And then automatically you can be then kind also to others.
Yeah. And, again, throwing up a boundary or two when needed, that is self care. That is self love. right? So recognize if ever you're saying, well, I have to do it. Well, if the reason you're doing it is through obligation, the next question should be, is this hurting me or empowering me? If the answer is, if it's hurting me, yeah, who says what's going to happen, right? Take care of you, most importantly.
Yes.
Boundaries are love. So,
Amazing words, I think, to end today's
yeah.
episode. And yeah, I hope everyone could take something out of that. And yeah, of course, we're wishing you all the best
Yes.
for the season, for the year, and let us know what you are up for. I'm not talking about New Year's resolutions,
Uh,
just
yeah. And if you have any topics that you want us to really dive into, my gosh, there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of years of experience between Monica and I. So chances are, whatever the situation is, whatever the topic is, we've worked with it or lived it, you know. I think the quote of the day to kind of wrap everything is from Monica of start everything with intention and end everything with gratitude. And I think that that's how I'm going to leave 2024 is with gratitude. And I'm going to enter with intention into 2025 with the intention to make it memorable, amazing, to make my days count, right? So I think that's what we leave. What is your intention for 2025? Put that in the comment box. And yeah, any other topics you want some clarity on. But I'm super grateful for you, Monica. I'm super grateful for this podcast, for all of you. And cheers onwards and upwards to an epic 2025.
oh yes, yeah. Thank you so much, and I'm also super grateful of you, Erin, of our work together, and yeah, and then also starting me as the first. My intention is to help even more people to get out of their own ways so that they
Amen.
can step into their true potential and really live the life they deserve and enjoy
Yeah.
it because they know they deserve.
Amen. Amen. Thanks for everybody for being here and being part of our lives.